Hey Kickstarter, long time no talk. I've been working on getting my wedding planned, which is happening in less than a week, and I only just got a chance to shoot this video. So I just wanted to answer a bunch of questions. A lot of this information is also down below on the Kickstarter page, but some of you prefer to watch videos, so here's some answers. The biggest question I get is really, what is the indie console? Is it hardware? Is it software? You know, what's the deal? Well, it's hardware and software, but really what I'm giving you is software. And the software consists of an online game store, specifically tailored to indie games, a set of helper scripts native to the operating system it's running on that help the game store and launcher do a bunch of the more complicated things they can't do on their own. A set of emulators allowing you to run all different types of games on the console. And, oh, I already said the game store, didn't I? So, you know, you could really put these things all together yourself, and you could go download the games off the internet and, you know, just launch them in your operating system. So the biggest, most unique part is the online game store, which is specifically designed to allow small indie gamers to sell their games all in one place, where users can download them and immediately launch them in a console interface designed to be played with any types of controllers they want on their television. The hardware is really whatever you want it to be, because you can install the software on any machine you want. It's the software that makes this unique. But if you want to get the hardware pre-installed on a device, this is basically what you'd be getting. The Zotac AD04, featuring a 1.65 dual-core GHz AMD processor, 2 gigs of RAM, a 320 gig hard drive, and an AMD 6320 mobile Radeon graphics processor. It's by no means a beast of a gaming machine, but it's designed in order to be compact, like a media PC, plugged into your television, and let you play some of the simpler indie type games that are currently popular. So if it's just a computer, then, you know, why am I even doing the project? Why am I calling it the indie console? Well, I looked at the other big consoles in the industry, you know, the Xbox, PlayStation 3, the Wii, and really they're also just computers. They're just computers that prevent you from using them as computers, and all they let you do is play the games and run the apps that they want. So when I get asked, isn't the indie console just a computer? I say, well, so are the other ones, only I actually let you use it as a computer. People are kind of taken aback at the idea that they have to spend money or even, you know, consider using this project at all when they could just use their own computer. But there are some people who don't know how to put something like this together on their own, and I'm trying to help those people. And I put together the online game store in an attempt to help indie developers have a way to reach those people. So there's none of this you couldn't do on your own, and that's why the project isn't a super ambitious try to take over the world idea. It's really just trying to help out gamers is what I'm trying to do. So the next biggest question I always hear is, you know, why did I have to ask for so much money in order to put together what seems like such a simple idea? $70,000 is what I asked for. And the reason is twofold. One, when you add up the fact that we're trying to put together a console that runs smoothly at all times and can handle whatever you throw at it, and has a full online game store with a back-end support that requires hosting, multiple different technologies to work properly and all that, it's actually a fairly complicated project, and it's going to take a lot of time to build, and time is money, as you know. It's also going to take physical resources and hardware prototypes in, as I said, hosting and storage for all of the data, and downloads cost money, etc. But the bigger reason is really that this project, once it's born, actually needs to continue to survive thereafter. If I was able to do this for $5,000, and, you know, maybe I could have made a simpler version at that price, all it would actually be doing is proving that there were maybe a couple hundred people who were interested in it. And a couple hundred people is not enough to provide an ecosystem that will allow the indie console to thrive after its launch date. What it really needs is a dedicated user base of gamers who want to play it and developers who want to develop on it. So if it can't get users, you know, out the door, it's going to be difficult to survive further down the road. So Kickstarter was both a way to raise funds and at the same time gauge interest. People have said, if you need that much money, why don't you just go and look for actual investors to start the company? And it's really the same reason. Investors might be interested in having it built because they think there's a way for them to make money off of it. But if there are no gamers who actually want to use it, then it's not a project that I think needs to exist. I'm not trying to create a killer product and sell you a great product. Well, I would like it to be a great product, but I want to do it because I think you guys want it. And if you don't want it, then, you know, I don't think it's something that needs to exist. It's not a product I'm going to force on you. Similarly, investors, would probably look at it as another console in the market that's looking to come and be the Xbox or the PlayStation killer. And that's not really what I'm trying to accomplish at all. I'm just trying to give a place for small indie gamers and developers to play games in a console-like experience. And investors would most likely try to find a way to turn the biggest profit off of that. And the way to do that is not to chase, tiny indie development and help out the developer. They would end up taking over the project and owning it, and it would no longer be what we want it to be. So, this is about you and me coming together to figure out the best way to let indie gamers use this thing. So what kind of games would be on the indie console? Well, obviously I don't exactly know that because they haven't been developed yet. But what I expect to see is the type of small indie games that have really started to storm the industry lately, that are trying experimental new gameplay and don't require all of the latest fancy graphics in order to get your attention because they're just good, clever games. People then ask, well, can I already play those games on, the Xbox 360, the PlayStation, or a lot of them, can I just go on the internet and play in my browser? Well, if you're playing them on the Xbox or the PlayStation, that means that those developers have made it far enough to actually develop and, make it through the door on those consoles, which not everyone will ever be able to do. So the indie console allows you to play the games by people who are small and they just want to develop on an open market and not be restricted by Microsoft and Sony, etc. And if you look at small Flash games or even downloadable Windows indie games, sure, you can currently get those on your computer. A lot of developers even have stores and can get paid legitimately when you download them. But some of the developers are stuck just putting ads in their games, and personally that's not an experience I like. I think developers should be able to charge what they think is reasonable, and I think gamers will pay it if it's reasonable and it's a good game. And when people play these games currently, they're stuck playing them with a keyboard and mouse, and the indie console really strives to let you play them in a classic console environment and use a controller and play on your TV with a bunch of your friends. So we're trying to get people to create classic console games again in a modern era with an online store using modern technology. And so if there are so many indie games that I want to see on this, why did the demo show, so many old DOS games or emulated Nintendo games and whatnot? Why not all indie games? In the original video, what I was trying to show was that the console actually is a physical prototype and exists, and it can play indie games, being Windows executable games, Linux games, Flash games, HTML5, etc. But it can also serve as your retro gaming machine, and it can handle old DOS games and emulated Nintendo games. I just wanted to show that, we're not just looking at making, say, a Flash gaming box, because if we were doing that, then, it's practically, why don't you just go play it on your computer? I wanted to show the variety of things you can actually do with it and, show that you can really branch out and make it be whatever you want, because again, I'm providing you with an interface and a console that's really a computer, and you can use it how you want. So as you can see, like I said, I'm asking for $70,000 both to build it and to have a dedicated user base that's interested in the concept. And a lot of questions with Kickstarter projects is, will the project be developed even if the money is not raised? Is there a reason, or is there funding? So if the project succeeds, then I'll be developing it as a full-time project and putting 100% of my time into perfecting the software, as well as how the software works on the hardware, getting everything up to snuff to be perfect to fully launch the console as an actual marketable product. If the $70,000 is not raised and the Kickstarter fails, then the indie console will most likely not completely die, but it will go on the back burner as a side project that will be released slowly and most likely focus just on the software portion of it. Now, unfortunately, this means that the user base will not be able to be built up as fast, and that means developers will not be as interested in releasing their games on the console, but it's something that can be done on the side, and we can just see how it goes. And I guess you could say that would make it a real true indie project. So what kind of features will be available for developers, and how is the game store going to be different from what you've already seen? Well, what I want to do with the indie console is really support the gamers and the developers as best I can. I have to make money in order to stay in business, but it's not about the making the money. It's about supporting the indie developers, because that's who I am at my core, and that's what I really believe in. And that means that any of the innovative new ideas as to how indie games and small games sell best will be implemented if that's what people want. For instance, a pay what you want, where gamers can pay whatever they want for a game, or a bundle of games is a very popular strategy right now. And if that's something that people want on the console, that's something we'll be interested in providing. So as I'd mentioned down below, developers will be able to get probably a larger percentage on the indie console than they can get of their money on other consoles. We will try to support whatever people are doing with new technology and help you get the games launched, which is easy anyway because we already support whatever software you want to be using. So again, it's really about getting indie games into the hands of gamers and helping the developers. I want to make a good product and not just find a way to make the most money off of you. So why should you help the indie console? And that's really the answer. It's because the indie console is really trying to be a console that is about the gamers and the developers. It's about letting developers develop however they want and submit their games up onto the game store without any fear of them being rejected, and letting gamers just buy those games without any problem, download them and play them on a console without any restrictions, use that machine for whatever else they want, not be stuck using proprietary hardware, allow price changes for game developers on the store. Microsoft just announced that they're going to let developers change their prices once a week instead of once every 3 months. I can't possibly imagine not letting developers change their price as many times as they want. Change the price, who cares? It's your game, it's your console, and I think you should be able to do with it whatever you want to do with it. The indie console is an open platform for playing games, and that's what it is. Thank you.